Welcome to AppBlocks. This walkthrough will show you how to collect data from one-wire and single-wire sensors connected to Tibbit62. We begin with the hardware configuration. We will place Tibbit62 into socket 1. Adding Tibbit62 equips your TPS with 2 channels for connecting one-wire and single-wire devices. Now, let's add a terminal block Tibbit. As always, add a power supply Tibbit. Finally, add the power input Tibbit. The hardware configuration is complete. Let's proceed to configuring your project's features. Open the one-wire, single-wire sensors page. This demo was created using a TPS system with 3 sensors, 1 single-wire sensor on channel 1 of Tibbit62 and 2 one-wire sensors connected to channel 2. Let's add the single-wire sensor. Let's call the single-wire sensor single-wire 1. I am selecting DHT22 here, because this is the type of single-wire sensor I have in my system. Your project may use several one-wire, single-wire Tibbits, in which case you would need to make a selection here. You will notice that AppBlocks is preparing to generate 2 variables for passing sensor values, single-wire 1_temp and single-wire 1_hum. This is because single-wire devices measure temperature as well as humidity. Next, let's add a one-wire sensor. Let's call it one-wire 1. Single-wire and one-wire devices cannot be connected to the same channel. This is why this sensor is on channel 2. Notice that only one variable, one-wire 1_temp, is being created. This is because one-wire devices only measure temperature. Finally, let's add the second one-wire sensor. This sensor is connected to the second channel as well. Up to 16 one-wire devices can be connected to one channel of Tibbit62. Now that all sensors have been added, let's draw the application. Drag the on time period block onto the canvas. This block will trigger periodic sensor readings. Click the block to edit the time period. We set this periodic timer to 3 seconds. Now add the block called debug print. Interconnect the 2 blocks. Click the debug print block. Click the expanded view button. Now let's define what we want to print. Watch how I enter a multi-line expression that includes static and dynamic portions. Notice that the dynamic bits are variables that were auto-generated by AppBlocks to hold sensor data. It's time to run this application. Select the target TPS device. Now the application is being compiled, after which its binary gets uploaded onto the TPS device. Once the app starts running, you will see the sensor data printed in the console window every 3 seconds. Wait, why are the one-wire sensors reporting 0 values? The reason is that you haven't assigned them. What we have done so far is to define 2 one-wire sensors in your system. This is like creating 2 placeholders for one-wire sensors. One step still remains: to identify the addresses of one-wire devices connected to your TPS and map these addresses to the placeholders. For this, we turn to your TPS web interface, which AppBlocks has auto-generated for you. To find the current IP address of your TPS, open the Device Explorer. You can click on the IP address here, or open this address in a separate browser tab. In the web interface, open the One-Wire Sensors page and click Scan. Tibbit62 will then search for the one-wire sensors connected to it. After the scan, map the sensors by selecting them in the drop-downs. Click Save when you are done. Remember that the mapping must be performed on each copy of your system. Your app defines its general architecture, such as that they're expected to be 2 one-wire sensors. The actual addresses of these sensors will differ for each deployment of your system. Single-wire devices are not addressable and do not require mapping. Now that one-wire sensors have been mapped, everything works. One-wire and single-wire sensor integration is an excellent example of the AppBlocks power. Without AppBlocks, your coding effort would be substantial. Even though we supply a Tibbit62 library, you would still need to integrate it into your project and write code for tracking the types and numbers of sensors in your system. You would also need to provide a UI for discovering and assigning one-wire sensors. All this work would take much time, possibly hours or even days. AppBlocks lets you get there in minutes. Thank you for watching this walkthrough.